IIT Patna, and both of them specialize on information security. So, to move ahead with the event, I would like to invite Debolina Mahatpatra ma'am to start with the introduction of research methodology in GDSC in IIT Patna. So, ma'am, could you please take on from here?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. Today we are going to have an introductory session on research methodology. So it is basically for people who do not have much idea on how to proceed with research or who are interested and who are still looking for some roadmap to pursue research. So I am pursuing my master's MTech in computer science and engineering with specialization in information security, and I'm currently in my third semester. To begin with, we are first going to look at the definition of research. So, as per the dictionary meaning, we come to the conclusion that research is a careful investigation or inquiry, especially through search for new facts in any branch of knowledge. So, by careful investigation, we mean that we have to carry out a systematic investigation and we have to formulate some questions and we have to search for new facts within that same branch that we are studying in. Suppose that if you want to work in artificial intelligence and you take up something like computer vision, after that you probe deeper into that, you come to something like plant disease detection, and then by careful investigation you come with a problem statement on your own, and then you search for some to find something new in it. You are trying to improve upon existing results in uh, in the existing research papers, or you are trying to create a model on your own. So these are some of the things that deals with that research deals with. And we can also say that it is a systematized effort to gain some new knowledge, something which is not existing, something that is new, something which is novel in nature. So that is what research is about. Okay, so now the question is, what actually is research and what leads to research? You must have heard this popular saying that curiosity is the mother of all inventions. So, if we did not have curiosity, we would not know anything at all. If Newton did not have curiosity, when he saw a fallen apple from a tree, he would never formulate those gravitational laws. So that is why curiosity, the inquisitiveness within all of us, that is very important in order to pursue research. And this vital instinct of curiosity that leads us to research. So we begin to wonder and we try to go deeper and deeper into a particular area, and we are trying to understand this some unknown topic of interest. And one more thing is that using this inquisitiveness which is within all of us, we will obtain some new knowledge from whatever area that you are working on. So this is the whole idea on research. Okay, so what actually motivates a person to pursue a research-based career? So these are some of the general points which I have written over here. So number one is that we want to get a research degree because it has a lot of benefits. And the second is that some people have a lot of fun in tackling challenging problems. So they like to pursue a research-based career. Some also have this intellectual joy while doing some creative work, and research is all about creativity. Some want to be of service to the society and they address the problems which are existing within the society, and they try to use their research methods and so on to solve a particular problem. And another thing is that some people like to possess a doctorate or postdoc degree in order to get a respectable position within the society. So these are some of the reasons why people are motivated to pursue research career. Okay. So now we are going to look at some basic differences between a course-based degree versus a research-based degree. So, in a typical UG course, like most of you present over here belong to BTech degree courses. So, in that, you encounter a lot of learning, a lot of courses are there, and the focus of your entire degree lies in completion of these courses, completing the exams, getting good grades on assignments, on class tests, midterms, and so on. So these endpoints are clearly defined. You know that when you are going to cross this semester, you are getting ahead and you are going to learn some more new subjects. So something which is clearly defined, uh, that is your typical UG course. And also uh, the grader expects similar answer scripts from all the students, which means that when you sit for the examination, so when your teacher checks your answer scripts, the teacher is expecting to see similar answers from everyone. However, it is the exact opposite when you are pursuing a research-based course. So, in a research based course, can be an MS or a PhD, the focus is on contributing something new, something which has not been found yet. So, that is the work of a researcher. And a lot of self contribution is involved. The person has to study a lot, and it is open ended. So, you never know when your degree is going to finish. Some people can finish it within 3 to 3.5 years. For others, it may take 5 to 6 years. So, this open ended nature is always there in any research based course. And one more thing, which might seem a little funny, but we cannot submit similar theses. Individual contribution has to be there and it has to be unique. Unlike in your typical UG course, your answer scripts need to be same for all the questions asked. In this, your thesis can never be same. It has to be a unique and individual contribution. So these are some of the key points differentiating between a course-based and a research-based degree. Now we move on to another difference, which is between a textbook and a research paper. So when you read a textbook, you find that everything is organized and it is presented in a very clear manner. And it is some knowledge which has been accumulated over years and years of study. So that is your textbook. It is a compilation of knowledge which is existing and which has been verified all over again and again. However, when we see a research paper, we can never predict what it is about, what it is going to be in future. A textbook, once it is published, we know that it is going to stay for like 10, 15 years and it is like a part of curriculum. But when it is a research paper, it is unclear whether it is going to be relevant in your near future or not. Why does it happen? Is because technology is ever evolving, it is continuously changing, and something which is relevant in the current age, it may not be so in future. I can give you one example. So, in if people present here have studied deep learning, then I can give you the example of CNNs, convolutional neural networks. So earlier, CNNs used to have something called as max pooling technique, which used to give a very high accuracy with all the image classification tasks. However, I think a few years back, we have noticed that the max pooling operation has a lot of flaws, which is why now something known as capsule networks are coming into this new age networks. So, like that, something which is relevant today may not be relevant in future. Something which is working right now, it may not have that good impact, and something even better can come up. Someone can come up with. So that you need to know that things are not predictable while you're working in a research-based career. Okay. So now you may question that how are we going to begin with research, or what is the starting point of the roadmap? The starting point is your passion for research, and that is the main driving force. Also, One more thing is your eagerness to learn continuously, because you always have to learn, you have to read papers, you have to read some books, and you have to continuously search and discover new topics of interest, something which has not been done. How can you achieve that, and how can you go on by for publishing some remarkable work? So you have to have these two things: one, your passion for research, and two, the ability to learn continuously, to always search and discover. So, when we talk about research, it may seem like it is going to a city you really like, but you may not be aware of your destination. So, this means that you are going to a city you really like, which is the area of your study. Suppose you really studying about machine learning and that is your city, but you are not aware of your destination. You do not know what you will end up doing. So you are taking some problem, you are trying to execute a lot of trial and error happens, and you have to be always mentally ready to encounter that thing. And once uh, uh, it's like the beginning is a bit hazy, I can say, but when you discover something new, there is immense joy. So that is why this passion for research is the driving force. This driving force leads you to that immense joy when you find out something new, which has a lot of impact for the research community. And before going further, I would like to quote Albert Einstein: "If we knew what we were doing, it would not be called research, would it?" So, if we actually knew what we are doing, that would mean that we are reading a textbook. That would mean that it has already been done. It will not be called as research unless and until there is something that is unknown, that unknown factor that contributes to research. That means that it calls for research. It is asking you that you have to probe into it. You have to find out something, and you have to come up with a new solution. So, this is one of the thought provoking quotations that we have on screen. And now we will move forward. Okay. So, during research, you are the one who asks questions, and these questions better be relevant. And you are the one who finds answers which makes a difference. So when you have selected some area where in which you want to work, and you have narrowed down to a particular problem, then you are the one who asks these questions which are relevant to this area of study, and you are the one who will find the answers. And these answers that you find, they are the ones which will make a difference to your research community. Okay, so I will like to ask this question to my attendees. Does one need to be super intelligent for research work? If people could answer in the chat box, do you think that you have to be very, very intelligent, extremely hardworking to pursue a research career? If people could answer in in the chat box. Okay. Well, I would like to answer this question. Absolutely not. It is not at all necessary to be very, very intelligent or extremely hardworking to pursue research. You only need to have the following traits, the qualities which I have listed over here. Number one, the spirit of learning. You should always be ready to learn new things. Like any new area which is thriving, like right now you have a lot of crypto talk on cryptocurrencies and blockchain. So you should have the spirit of learning, like, okay, let me see what it is, and what are the latest research in this area, and who has come up with some new thing in this particular area. So this is your spirit of learning. If you are reading something on the news, if you are having a lot of questions while even attending your regular classes, then you should have that inquisitiveness within you. So that is your spirit of learning. You are always ready to work hard, and you are always ready to face the challenges. You have this passion for research, you have this creativity within you, you have expressiveness. So that is very important. You need to voice out your ideas. Whatever ideas you have, you should be able to put it out clearly in front of your seniors or people who can help you, like your supervisors. Your attitude is also something which really matters, and that is the inclination to learn, carry out research. So if you like something, then definitely you can work on it. And the last one, the willingness to do groundwork. Groundwork means the willingness to go read a lot of papers. Sometimes, when you have to do surveys, it may require you to read around 50 to 60 papers. Sometimes it happens when you are doing preliminary research and you want to get to know the area and you do not have any books written on that particular area. So that at that moment it calls for a lot of groundwork, and you have to read all the traditional literature which is available in books, as well as the latest developments which is taking place in that particular area which you have selected. All these comprise of your groundwork. Also, I would like to say that sometimes students, a lot of times, students are very disturbed about the fact that books are not available in my area of study. So, if any area of study already has a lot of books written on it, then you would not need to do research at all in that area. Because if books are already available and a lot of work has already been done, then what new thing will you do? And I feel really happy to select one of the areas in which very rarely books are available. So that is why it signifies that there is a scope of work, there is scope for innovation in that particular area, because very less material is available. That means you can come up with very new innovative things in that particular area. Okay. Now we shall move on to some of the objectives of research. These are exploratory or formulative, descriptive, diagnostic, and hypothesis testing. So, in exploratory or formulative research studies, we try to gain familiarity with some phenomenon, or we try to achieve new insights into it. When we are doing descriptive research, it means that we are trying to portray the characteristics of some particular situation. And in diagnostic research, it is like to determine the frequency with which something is occurring or with which it is associated with something else. And finally, with hypothesis testing, it is to test any hypothesis of a causal relationship when we have between some variables in our hypothesis. So that testing part is done in this kind of research. We will go into details in some later workshops, but this is just a gist of what it actually is. Okay. So now we have the research process, and we are going to look at number one and two, which is to define the research problem and to review the literature, which involves reviewing the concepts and theories and reviewing the previous research findings. And the other segments of the pipeline can be the formulating the hypotheses, to design the research, to collect the data, which is the execution, to analyze the data, and finally we interpret and report our findings. So how do we select a research area? So you have to look for something which interests you, some particular area that you find really interesting. Probably you have read it in your UG degree courses, or probably you have had had some online courses are also there. So if you do not have some subject in your class, and if you find it interesting elsewhere while taking some online course, then you can also give some reading to that area which you are finding interesting. And a general reading on the literature, it will help you understand the importance of the area which you have selected for yourself. And the most important thing is that you have to evaluate its impact in the scientific community, because when you are writing papers, when you're publishing these papers, the citations are very important. They help to determine the quality of your paper, the importance of your paper within your research community. So that is why there comes a time when you need to evaluate the impact of your paper in the scientific community, whether other researchers will be willing to read your paper or not. So that is something which you have to look forward to. Another thing is that when you are selecting some problem, then you need to look it as a challenge, and you also have to have some interest as well, a lot of interest as well in solving that challenge. And your introspection is that you have to always try to delve deeper into the problem statement, and always look at the nitty gritties of your subject, the research area which you have picked. And you have to reread and rethink all the time until and unless you come to some definite conclusion. So this is your way of selecting the research area. And after that, we come to the literature review. So once you have formulated your problem statement, you write a brief summary of it, and after that, we take an extensive literature survey connected with this problem to properly understand one of your any of your problem statements. You need to read a lot of papers, and people should not be afraid of the hard work it takes, because it's always the passion which helps to go through that entire phase of literature survey. So that is an extremely important part of your research. And uh, what should you study while doing this literature survey? So there are good journals. There are indexed journals like SCI indexed or Scopus indexed journals, which are regarded as the relevant ones as well as the reliable ones within the scientific community, as well as some published or unpublished bibliographies. So for that, I can recommend that you can look for good papers on archives as well. They are the good places where you can find papers. And apart from that, we have academic journals, we have conference proceedings, government reports, and books as well. So you can go through that also to analyze your problem. Okay. Now I will like to invite Mamta Kumari to proceed further with the discussion.
Thank you, Devolina, for giving me this opportunity. Good evening to all of you. As mentioned by Devolina, I will be explaining how to search for the papers. You might be thinking that why I'm explaining this trivial question, how to search for the paper. Is it different from the regular search? So for those, my answer is no, but it is still somewhat different, and it is important to know how to search for the papers, because for finding research paper, regular search engine will not very useful. So for this, we have some dedicated search engines, uh, like Google Scholar, and then we have Web of Science and Science Direct. We have also IEEE Explore, where we can find our papers for research oriented work. So before moving forward, let me share my screen to show how to search search for the papers.
Okay. Yes, Mamta, you can share now.
Yeah, okay. I believe my screen is visible to all of you.
It's visible.
Yeah, okay. So for searching, we need to go to Google Scholar. So I am simply typing Google Scholar in the URL, and at the first result, I will click on the first result, that is https dot google scholar.google.com. Here you can see a search box. Here you can type whatever you like to search. For example, if you like to find papers related to machine learning, you can simply type machine learning and then hit enter. This will give you results, and this is a very large number of results you got. So if you want to be specific about your topics or area you want to find research paper, then based on your query you put your keyword. um, let's suppose you want to work on the machine learning security, then you simply just append security to the search input, then your result will be narrowed down. Here you can see the lesser number of results. You can also filter these results based on the year of publication, and you can also sort it by dates. Uh, so if you want to go for the paper after 2020, then search then click on since 2020. It will give you the paper that was published in 2020 and after that. Let's suppose I click on this first result. So here you can see the IEEE Explore. It will redirect to the main author area where this paper is published. So here you can download this paper, but it might be possible that when you click on the PDF button to download this, you might get option to sign in. Sometimes you will be asking to sign in, or sometimes it is open to all. So in this paper it is open for all, it is open access, but some of them are subscription based. So for that you need to download it using your university library, like we have Nimbus, and we have also one website, scihub.ac, to download this paper. Here you do not require any credential to download this paper or any subscription. You just simply put this URL to download this paper. Yeah, so you can see you can able to download paper from here. So now I want to go back to Google Scholar result. Yeah. Here, if you want to search by some author name specifically, then you can also use the advanced search features. Here, you got the option to search your articles by author name and by with exact phrase like this. So this is very useful. You try it yourself and explore it by yourself to know another extra features. One more thing I want to tell you about, there is a save option. So in case you need to save it for another time, for next time you want to read this paper, then you click on the save button to save it to your library. uh, Excuse me, Debolina, come up to the
Yeah, could you stop sharing your screen? Yeah, just a second.
next slide. So we have seen to how to search for these so now how do we decide, how do we judge whether that paper is of good quality or not? So for that, you need to know about the impact factor and many more things. So first of all, I would like to uh, know, I would like to tell you about the impact factor. What is this? So impact factor is nothing but it is a measure of citation frequency that offers a quantitative metric for evaluating the journal and assessing their relative influence. So you might be thinking that where can I see the impact factor? So you will find it on the Web of Science group's journal. You simply just type on the browser SCI index journal, then it will redirect to a website where you can type the name of your article, and then they will give the impact factor of that article. uh, Debolina, can I share my screen again?
Yeah, you can share now.
Okay. So here you can see whether the journal you have downloaded is belong to SCI index or not. No, what is the impact factor of that journal? Then simply you just type this heading to search bar, and here you can see the some of the results, and you have to filter out because our paper is from IEEE access. So go on the result where it is about IEEE. Sometimes title will not give you the exact result, so you need to be specific about so you can also search it by using DOI, and DOI is mentioned at here. One minute. Yeah, here you can get the result IEEE from IEEE access. If you click on the view profile page, then you can get the details about the impact factor and all. But here I do not have the sign in of Web of Science subscription, so I'm not getting this option. So in this way, you can see the whether what is the impact factor. Higher the impact factor means your journal is of good quality, and lower means it is not of that good quality paper. Debolina, please come to this slide.
Mamta, I have shared the presentation link in the chat. Could you please check?
Okay.
Mamta, you are not audible.
Yeah, I just forgot to. So we have discussed about the impact factor. Now there is another way to judge the quality of the paper. First one is SCI, whether your paper is SCI indexed paper or not. So the same way is to know the SCI indexed journal is not go on to the SCI Web of Science group website and paste your title of paper there. If result comes and your you get your paper there, then it means that your paper is from HCI index journal. And same for the Scopus, you have to go to the Scopus website. So why we are dealing with SCI and Scopus indexing? So both SCI and Scopus journal are far better than which are non-index journal, means which are not in both. And it has been said that SCI and Scopus upholds the greater value of the journal when it comes to authenticity and quality, novelty, and uh, relevance. Then SCI and Scopus indexing journal have their benefits, and other paper do not have worked on that. That's why their paper is not listed in SCI and Scopus indexing journal. So in this way, you can judge your paper, and they decide which paper should go into the SCI and Scopus by their citation rate and the quality of work they have performed in the papers. So in this way, you can judge your research paper. So I have also covered this how to download papers. You can visit your Nimbus library to download your paper in case you are facing problem in downloading from the direct website. Or you can also use the this second URL sciencehub.ac to get your papers. Now, what topics to be discussed in the future session? So in future session we will be differentiating about the SCI index journal and Scopus journal, and we also discuss about how to read and understand the paper's content. And then we also discuss different types of research paper, like journal paper and book chapters versus conference paper, and which papers we should not read being a fresher. So this will discuss in the latter session. So now I would like to hand over to Debolina to conclude this session.
Thank you, Mamta. That was really insightful for all of us. Okay, so in the last slide, we saw something related to research in computer science. And as we all are technical students, so that is something which we find more interesting. So, some of the latest areas that you might like to work on are Internet of Things, data science, data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, blockchain, information security as well, and quantum computing is one of the trending research topics nowadays. So, in future sessions, we are planning that we'll have some introductory sessions on all of these topics, or at least some of them, which are relevant to our work as well.
Screen is
Yeah.
not visible.
Okay. Okay. I hope it is visible now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, so these are some of the latest areas, and Internet of Things is one of the trending technologies of the present age, because nowadays all of the devices are being termed as smart or intelligent, and it is becoming a web of connectivity of devices, of people, of even medical devices as well, like pacemaker you have, and all different kinds of medical IoT based medical devices. These are some of the latest areas in which research is going on. Also, you have data science or data analytics, which has been there for a long time, and they will continue to be there in this research industry, because when in IoT devices collect some data, they obviously need to be analyzed. When we have some data being collected by quantum computers, they also need to be analyzed. When it comes to artificial intelligence and machine learning, we have to perform data analysis before we try to create a machine learning model. So this thing is always going to be there, and you can always be safe and secure when you want to work in data analytics or data science related stuff. And then AI and machine learning, this all of us are aware that how much popular these have become in the recent past decade, I think. A lot of students must have already started doing some basic projects on machine learning. And we also have blockchain, which is really in the trends nowadays. Nowadays, people are even investing a lot in cryptocurrencies. So, apart from all of this, the last two which I have listed, which is information security and quantum computing, I would like to draw your attention towards these areas which are actually having a lot of importance in the current age. Why information security? You may ask me, because even if you have Internet of Things and machine learning and deep learning and all of that, there always is a problem of security, even in these high technologies and all of this. So, in if any IoT device gets hacked, suppose even if a pacemaker gets hacked in some lodged in some person's heart, then that person can actually die if it is not secure. That will be considered as a murder actually. But how can you find the hacker? How can you find the murderer if you do not have any security mechanism? So security is of prime concern nowadays, especially for Internet of Medical Things, so IoMT devices, which is there. In machine learning, especially in deep learning, we need to secure the deep learning models as well. Models are getting stolen. You can search on the web. You will get to know that deep learning models are facing copyright infringement issues. People are spending hours and days and months to train a particular model, and some people are simply stealing those models and just fine tuning it, claiming it to be their own. So that is also one of the major issues or deep learning models. One another thing is that something called as adversarial attacks. That is another branch, that is another problem which is occurring with deep learning based models. So that is a major drawback with adversarial attacks. You can just fool a deep learning model. You can simply trick it into giving a wrong label as a prediction. So there also security comes into play. So basically, security encompasses all of the latest areas that are trending nowadays. Even in blockchain, security is of very, very prime importance. Even in quantum computing, we will talk about it later. And in quantum computing as well, you have security. So you may think that I'm a little biased towards security because I belong to information security branch of MTech. Well, yes, because I love what I study, and I really enjoy whatever courses I have taken in the first year. So I have understood the importance of my work, and that is what I was telling you, that whatever you do, you should have something that you can be of solid foundation, and you can just say that this is my work and my work is of prime importance. You should be able to prove it to other people that what you are working on impact in the present age for the research community. If you are going to do some breakthrough research, and that obviously comes after years of training in research, in this research field, after years of working and becoming an expert in your area, but you should be able to understand that whichever area you have chosen, for example, as of me, I have chosen information security. I have chosen to work in deep learning based security issues, and it is something I'm very enthusiastic about, and I can talk for hours on this particular topic. So that is why I'm telling you that when you have chosen anything to work on as your research area, you should have that enthusiasm within you. You should have that, uh, I would say, the passion to explore different domains within that same area. You have a lot of other issues that are occurring, so you should always see that. Like earlier, I was really interested in deep learning and machine learning and AI, but when I joined the security based courses, I tried to find out something which linked the two, and I really ended up finding that. And that is something I find very interesting to work on. So I hope that all of you, after this session, you just give a thought to what is the problem that you think needs to be addressed in the research community, in the technological community, or even the problem that you see someone facing, some security issue your friend is facing. So just question that thing. Have that inquisitiveness within yourself and try to formulate questions. Try to see that how can you solve that question? What are the resources that you have in hand, that you can just go to Google, you can read some blogs. For the starters, you can go and read the blogs, that what are the trending topics in a particular area, like in blockchain, what are the trending areas of research going on in blockchain. You can go to medium.com. A lot of researchers post blogs there. A lot of researchers also post the simplified version of a research paper on medium.com. So you can go there. If you're not able to understand a research paper, you could always find a simplified version of it somewhere on the internet. It lies there. For the popular research papers, as I know, it happens. A lot of blogs are there, so you can go there. You can read it. You can contact your seniors. You can contact PhDs, MTechs. We are always there to help you all, and you can just at least kickstart your research journey. Select an area of interest, find your problem, and do some literature survey. I'm not saying that go for 50 to 60 papers at one go. It is not possible. As of BTech, you also have a lot of courses that you need to complete. Your grades are also important, along with your classwork and a lot of mini that you have along with your placement preparations. But at least have this something which is a driving force to fuel your curiosity, your inquisitiveness. That is very important. So for that, at least spend around 2 to 3 hours per week. That is even enough. 2 to 3 hours per week. At least read some research paper. For your survey, you won't need a lot of papers. Even if you read 10 papers in your 4 years of BTech, even that will be enough to prepare you for higher studies whenever you want to take. Even if now you want to join an IT company and you decide to pursue a master's or PhD later on, even for that, it will act as your resource. It will be like a gem in your hidden box, that, yeah, this is something that I have within me, that I know how to read a paper. I know how to select some problem. I have worked on a mini problem statement, and I can always go further. So this is why we are always trying to motivate you that research is not something really big or something which is scary. This is something creative, actually. It is a very creative field, and it enhances the creative side of your brain. When you are studying and working continuously, coding doing some solutions on some websites like HackerRank or HackerRank, if you are continuously doing that, the analytical side of your brain does get active. But what about the creative side? So for the to fuel the creative side in a very positive way, this is something that you can do. You can always read about the new trending topics, and you can always come up with your own problem statement, and we are always there to help you. So with that, I would like to conclude this session. So thank you to all of you for attending our session, and to Mamta as well for helping me with the content and for giving such good understanding to all of you all. I also like to thank Pragati for for introducing us to this session. If we have any questions, anyone, if you want to ask any questions, feel free to type in the chat box.